start of a new school year. It feels like time for a fresh start, new routine. We are in the season of Easter, and this is an excellent time for a fresh start. And the seasons of spring just kind of bears that out. You know, I think every day I notice a new flowering tree or plant or tulips. I was up in Iowa this week, and they had lots of tulips everywhere. You know, when those new calves are being born, babies are being born in the spring, we look for signs in nature. Nature's having a fresh start. Why shouldn't we? Well, sometimes we ache for this. We want this. We crave a new beginning, and we're not quite sure how to go about this. So last week we talked about we got to stop whining. And if you want the outline and the notes from that one, I can get that to you. Because again, it was another opportunity to take notes, to fill in the blank, and then there was a lot of scripture verses, and you can take that home and you can look them up and think about what God is saying to you in this. So today we're going to talk about we need to take inventory. We stopped whining, we stopped complaining. Now we need to take a look at our lives as they really are. We need to take an inventory. And the first one is we need to take a professional inventory. Okay, so if you're working, sometimes people do this for you because there's yearly evaluations, there are certain times of the year when people are going to help you to take an inventory, to say, okay, you need to learn new skills or step up in this way or work on this area, that kind of thing. So sometimes people do that for us, but we can also do it for ourselves. We can think about, okay, if I want a new job, what skills do I need to sharpen up? What computer classes do I need to take? Or what do I need to learn how to do? If we're retired, it might pertain, sorry. Oh, sorry. Now, Riley, if I start coughing, you're going to have to mute that. Because I've got this tickle in my throat, and I'm living on cough drops, I think. Anyway, if we're retired, how can we take a professional inventory? Well, I was thinking about that because I know I spent some time with retired folks this week, and they thought they might ask me that. But every retiree that I know is busy. You guys are busy. You volunteer, you do lots of different things. Boy, I'm going to start coughing. I have a friend that's getting ready to retire, and she's looking forward to learning a new hobby, to learn a new skill. So that may not be professional, but it's something that she's wanted to do. And so you might just think about your life in that way. If you're retired and you want to think about what is it that you want to learn how to do? What is it that you've always dreamed of? We also need to take a personal inventory, and this can apply to everybody. I have springtime allergies, I think, and so you just have to bear with me, and I'm so sorry for the sore throat and everything. I'll do my best today. The personal inventory, here's how I do mine. I make a big cross on a piece of paper, and then I label the top and the bottom and each arm of the cross with 4 different things that I'm working on. And they might be, and I change it up from time to time, but it might be things that I want to learn. So I would call it learning and financial. How am I doing in with my personal finances? It might be in my spiritual life, and also meeting my goals. So if I've got that cross, if I've got more things that I want to track, I'll make another X across that, and I'll label those things. So you can try this, and then it's totally up to you how you mark those things. But then the closer you are to the center, is the more you need to grow. Is this making sense? So if you just kind of think about your life, if you're doing great in finances, then you might put a little X on that line close out to the where you've written that word. And then after you've done all those 4 areas or 8 areas, and then just you can kind of draw lines connecting them. It should kind of look like a wheel. Now, it might be a really lopsided wheel. In fact, it probably will be, because there are certain areas in your life when you're doing better than others. So think of that. That is just one way to take a personal inventory. There's lots of other ways. We also need a spiritual inventory. And down at the bottom of your bulletin, I've given you a place, a website that you can go to do a spiritual inventory, to learn about your spiritual gifts. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that today. I just introduce that topic. The spiritual gifts are given to every person by the Holy Spirit when we become a believer. And they're not all the same. Okay? There's famous examples in 1 Corinthians about the church is like a body. And you know how we need all parts in the body? We need all different people with different kinds of gifts in the church. So, we need people that are leaders. We need people that are helpers. We need people that are encouragers. We need people that are teachers. So you can go to that website and just kind of take that spiritual gifts inventory, and that will give you some clues as to what your particular gifts are. I imagine you'll be surprised. And another thing I know about this is that you can pray for certain ones. If there are gifts that you desire, you can pray for that, and God will work on that with you. Okay, so we're taking inventory, and there's all different kinds of ways to do that. Our next section says a life inventory. Let me let Robert catch up with me. Needs to involve a 360-degree feedback. 360-degree feedback. So by that I mean you need friends to talk to. You need outside people to help you have that input. And the simple question is, how are we doing? How are we doing? So you might check this in your relationships. It's a simple question. Ask your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend, or ask if you're a parent, ask your child, how are we doing? Kids might surprise you. They might surprise you. I think that they will. How are we doing? And then just listen carefully to what the person that you're in a relationship, what they say to you. You might also need independent analysis, and let me explain a little bit about that. We talked about spiritual gifts, your spiritual pathway. So let me talk about spiritual pathway a little bit. Friends, here we are sitting in church, and we've done some singing, and we've done some praying, and we're listening. And for some folks, that really works. This is our spiritual pathway. We feel close to God. Come every Sunday, we worship in this particular way, and we connect with God. For other folks, there are other spiritual pathways, other ways that they feel connected to the Creator, to the divine. And it might have to be individual prayer. And I hope that many of us also do this. But take time every day to go to God. Just have some quiet time. Maybe read a devotion or a Bible verse. And just think about what God is saying to you through that. Take some time to give praise and gratitude to God. Maybe you're the kind of person that feels really connected to God when you're out in nature. Maybe you're in Crowder Park, or maybe you're just working in your yard. That can be a powerful way to feel connected to God. Did you realize that was a spiritual pathway? Maybe you're one that loves to worship with loud music. Let's see, where's Katie? A couple weeks ago, Katie got to go to Branson for the Young Christians Weekend. Now let me pick on you for just a moment. Okay, how many bands did you get to hear? Do you remember? I think there were 11 bands. I have inside information on this. so if you can imagine all these teenagers and their sponsors at Branson with 11 different bands, do you think that was loud? Do you think that was noisy? Do you think that was joyful? There was a lot of praise going on. And for a lot of people like Katie and her friends, that's a spiritual pathway. And friends, let me just tell you, when they go to a concert, they don't usually sit like we do. They jump up and down the whole time. Am I right? Yeah, okay. Okay, we're thinking that's an unusual spiritual pathway, but it was deeply moving for those folks. So my point is that there are a lot of different ways to connect with God. Some of them resonate more with us, and you'll want to think about what is your spiritual pathway. Maybe it's through writing, maybe it's through journaling, and it's not so much through listening, but it's through writing, and then you see what God has spoken to you in that way. So, have I gotten off track yet? Let me see. This kind of series is a challenge for me too, to make sure I've done giving you all the answers. So the independent analysis: what is your spiritual pathway, and then what are your spiritual gifts? And like I said, there's that website down at the bottom of the page. You can check that out. And what is your personality? What is your personality? Did you ever think about that? Are you the kind of person that likes to be behind the scenes, helping? Are you the kind of person, I know, I've been here a few months, so I can pick on you a little bit. Dixie Pickett is a wonderful, encouraging note writer. Yeah. Pat McWilliams is a person that goes to visit a lot of folks in the nursing home and homebound. So to Ed and Mary, because I know when I follow behind y'all, it's easy. It's easy, because they're like, oh, they've been here, they gave me the bulletin, we talked about all this. Shannon and Elaine, their gift is music. They share that so beautifully. But there are certain folks that if I ask them to come up here and sing, God bless Carter and Addison for singing with me this morning. Now, who else would come up here and stand on the steps and sing with me? Okay, Sarah. There, I see a couple. I see about 4 hands, that would come up here. That's not our gift. But all week long, I've got people helping in the office. Cindy is on vacation. That is a tremendous gift. And it fits your personality, however you're doing that. So, all gifts are needed in the body of Christ. So the question becomes, how am I doing with these? See, friends, we can figure all this out, but if we don't do anything with it, what good is that? I want to affirm you in your gifts, your personality, your pathways, and realize that they're all as unique as each one of us. So don't hang back and think, oh, mine isn't the right way or the best way. No, it is. It is the best way for you, and you just need to utilize it. Okay. So I talked about this needs a 360-degree feedback is find it. Talk to people about it. Talk to your friends. Talk to the people you're in relationship with. But be careful who you check with, because you might get conflicting reports. You might get conflicting reports. There's this story told of shoe salesmen in the Sahara Desert. Now, you've got to use your sacred imagination a little bit and go with me here. Imagine that we have a shoe company and we're sending, this is a true story, but I'm amplifying it in some ways. A salesman was sent out to the Sahara Desert to sell shoes. And the first guy that the company sent was a dismal failure. He'd been out there a month, he didn't sell a thing. So they recalled him and they said, what's the deal? And he said, well, it's the Sahara Desert. Nobody wears shoes, they just wear sandals. Nobody wears shoes. I couldn't sell a thing. So they sent out another guy, shoe salesman, goes out, and man, he starts selling these shoes like crazy. And every week he's sending back enthusiastic reports to this company and saying, send more inventory. I'm selling out. I need. And so after a month, they checked with him and they said, what's the deal? And he said, well, it's the Sahara Desert. Nobody wears shoes, so everybody needs them. Conflicting reports. Be careful who you check with. All right, just in case you think I made that up, let me give you a story from the Bible. Y'all know the story about the Israelites leaving Egypt and wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, okay? And they're looking for the promised land, and they get pretty close, and Moses sends out a couple of spies into the promised land. He sends out some scouts, some guys to check it out and say, what is this really like? This is the Old Testament book of Numbers, chapter 13. Some of the scouts came back and they said, there's people living in this land. They are giants. We are not strong enough to attack them. They're way more powerful than we are. So they kind of were spreading a false report. I'm just looking to see what Robert has got up here.
Numbers.
Oh, very good. Everyone we saw was very, very tall. Okay. But then, so they kind of spread lies about these people and what the land was like and the challenges there. And they said, oh, it's not very good land. It doesn't even produce enough to feed the people that live there. And everyone we saw was very, very tall. Well, Caleb and Joshua went in there and they said, oh man, this land is great. It's like a land flowing with milk and honey. They saw abundant resources. Yes, there were people there. They would have to either conquer them or learn to work with them or live peacefully there. So there are challenges. But there was also abundant food for everybody. So, be careful who you check with. Moses got conflicting reports from his scouts. And then your information may be wrong. Your information may be wrong. So if you're just checking in with yourself, your information may be wrong. Again, we need our friends to surround us, to help us to think clearly about what God is saying to us and what God is calling us to, especially if we're trying to take a fresh start, if we're trying to do a new thing. Famous example is in the book of Job, when Job was a righteous man, and then the devil kind of messed with him and sent him all sorts of disease and devastation and despair. And you know what? Job had a wife and he had some friends that came around him and they said, you must have done something bad to deserve all this. Oh, we don't have friends like that, but maybe we do. Job says, in times like this, I need loyal friends. Whether I've forsaken God or not, because he maintained that he didn't, and his friends were trying to say, you must have done something terrible. You must have. And his wife actually said, curse God and die. He didn't want to do that either. He said, but I need loyal friends. You, my friends, deceive me like streams that go dry when no rain comes. All right. So if we think back to our story that I began with today from the Gospel of Mark, and here we have a guy that's paralyzed, paraplegic. He can't walk. And it's his friends that bring him to see Jesus. It's his friends that dig through the roof and lower their friend down. And it's, Jesus was impressed by their bold belief. That's how Mark puts it. Jesus was impressed by the faith of the friends. So it wasn't so much the guy who was in desperate need, but it was his friends that surrounded him, that brought him to Jesus, that had such faith that he could be healed. So, surround yourself with loyal, encouraging friends, and listen to them, especially if you're going through a tough time, if you're kind of in despair. You need to be lifted up. Okay. So the next section is get out of your box. God might be calling us to a fresh start, to do something new. And it's going to be a little uncomfortable. We're going to be outside of our comfort box. So you've got to listen to the trusted voice. Listen to the trusted voice. Back to our Old Testament example of Moses. Moses led those people out of Israel. He did all kinds of things to help them to learn to get along, to follow him, to be a great leader. And he was wearing himself out. So his father-in-law, Jethro, says, you are not doing this right. Don't you love father-in-laws? They'll tell it to you. He says, you are not doing this right. You will wear yourself out, and you'll wear these people out as well. This is too much for you to do alone. So let me give you some good advice, and God will be with you. So that was Jethro. That was Moses' father-in-law. And the tip is to make sure that you have an outside voice. See, Moses was enmeshed in this. He was so filled up with these challenges of leading these people and getting the manna and all the different things that they had to do every day just to survive in that desert. His father-in-law was a step removed from that. He could take a step back and see more clearly. And so he was the outside voice. He said, Moses, there's other ways to do this. You're going to wear yourself out. Okay. So finally, tips for developing these relationships, because you can't just go up to somebody on the street and ask them all this stuff or trying to tell them about, if they ask you. So you're developing relationships. You want to bring the best out of people. Friends, I like to say that when we worship together, that is wonderful. But we also need a small group of trusted friends that we can call anytime, day or night. You've got to develop those relationships. You want to bring the best out of people. And you know what? I hear over and over and over again how stressful life is. Lots of times people, they've had a bad experience in church. They don't want to come to church because they said there was so much fighting there. B says, keep the strife out of your life. And I think that we do that well here. We keep the strife out of our church life so that when we come, we can worship. And it's not a place that's full of conflict. C is take a stand for your family. Take a stand for your family. I'll give you an example of that. I had a friend that called and she wanted to make plans with me on Tuesday, and we set it all up. We set a time and a place to meet. We were both looking forward to it. It's very important. And then she called me back and she said, Linda, I almost flunked motherhood. I'm like, what? What did you do? She was calling to ask if we could change our plans because her daughter was turning 17 on Tuesday. And, we'd made all these plans and it had taken quite a bit to finagle that around. And she said, we're celebrating her birthday over the weekend, but her actual birthday is Tuesday and I want to be there. She was taking a stand for her family, and I respect that. And of course, we were able to change that. So think about that. Take a stand for your family. That's important. Invest in your relationships. We've talked a lot about that today, about we need these friends, these trusted friends around us, these people that we're in relationship with. So you got to invest in them. You got to take some time. That's why my friend and I, we were taking the time to set up Tuesday and get together. Well, we're going to do that another time. We're still invested in our relationship, but motherhood trumps that. E is be good to people. Be good to people. I don't know that I need to say anything more about that. And F is make sure someone holds you accountable. That's that last blank there if you're filling in. Make sure someone holds you accountable. I am in a small group of other pastors. We hold each other accountable for the things that we've covenanted to do every week. And let me just tell you, that is invaluable. So whether you have a formal covenant with a small group or if you just kind of have a friend that you can trust and say, hey, I want to get better in this area. Will you help me with that? Will you hold me accountable? It's great to have that person or group, a small group of people that you can count on in that way. So this week is all about taking inventory, and I do encourage you to check out that website to maybe make some notes this week about the inventory that you're talking about, and just think about that. And do you wonder what A is? Next week, we're going through the START acronym, so you can think about what starts with letter A. What's Mr. Linda going to talk about next week?